10th episode of You and I for the Kenai. Today I'm here with Eric and SJ, and SJ is going to tell us a little bit about her recovery story today. SJ, how are you? Super excited.
I'm super happy to be here. My name's SJ. I'm 38 years old. I'm from Kodiak, Alaska.
From the far south.
Yeah. I have 3 children. My kids are 21, 11, and 3. A lot of people.
What's SJ mean?
SJ is short for Sarah Joe.
Sarah Joe.
Yeah.
Not Sailor Joe?
No.
Okay.
I don't curse that much no more.
Like a sailor?
Yeah, like a sailor.
Well, you have an anchor necklace on too, so I thought maybe it was Sailor Joe.
Yeah, I'm an island girl. I'm a fisherman's daughter.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. You grew up fishing?
Yes.
A little bit?
Oh, yeah.
In Kodiak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad's been a commercial fisherman my whole life.
Wow.
He used to crab fish. He doesn't do that so much anymore, but he does fishing for herring and Sitka in the spring.
That's intense.
Yeah,
I fished
big time.
in Bristol Bay in 2015, and it was like the wild, wild west, man.
It's
like
the
a whole
Wild
nother
West on the
world,
water.
Because I grew up in Montana, and so like people ask like, what was that like? And I'm just like, dude, it's like westerns, but like on the sea, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a whole nother world, and I'm like, at times pretty rough around the edges, you know, and like. I mean, I didn't grow up in like some like super square picket fence cookie cutter avenue, whatever. And I was on this boat in Bristol Bay, and they were talking about some stuff that was a little weird. And they literally told me like, "Dude, you're just a little too square for us." And I was like, "Whoa, man!" Like, and so then I tell my friends in Montana, like, "Dude, like it's like they told me I was too square," and like, man, that place must be kind of rough.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's a whole nother world, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've been tendering since I was 10.
Wow.
And I don't know. It's a really amazing thing though to be out on the water.
Yeah.
I like being out on the water because it just makes me realize how small I am.
Sure.
On this planet, I'm just like a little speck.
Yeah.
So it makes you just kind of appreciate life.
Yeah. It's kind of overwhelming at times. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, last time we were out, my dad's like, wow, he's like, you actually got the least used data on the phone plan. I'm like, yeah, it's because my phone ain't working.
Yeah,
He's like, keep up the good work, babe.
That's
Like,
yeah. Don't get used to it. That's awesome.
There's no signal.
Yeah. That's super cool. So you grew up in Kodiak, and then how long were you in Kodiak?
Not very long. When I was about 4 years old, we actually moved to Sterling.
Okay.
And it was around that time that my dad got hurt like really bad. He was working construction and he almost died.
Wow.
And so that was kind of some of my first memories starting out. And then we moved to Ninilchik, which was strange.
Sure.
It's so small, and that was, I don't know, that's kind of where most of my like first childhood memories started. My family was kind of like in a religious type cult. I remember smashing my thumb completely, like to the bone, like my nail was all off, and my mom calling the pastor, and they told him to like not give me any Tylenol or anything, that God was just gonna fix it. And
wow.
And it was a little bit
pretty
strange.
Intense.
Yeah.
Pretty extreme.
Yeah. And my dad was gone a lot because he was always fishing.
Yeah.
And
so it's just you and did you say you had siblings?
I do.
Sure.
There were that was actually around the time that my little sister was born, and my little sister was born just completely broken, and so that actually took my mom out of the picture as well, because she had to spend most of her time like up at Providence Hospital with my sister, and so it was just me. I actually don't even remember who watched us at that time, and so my little brother and sister Hannah and Sam were 13 months apart, and then I had an older brother James. And I don't know, like it's really weird. Like around that time, like there was just a lot of turbulence. I think my mom had that like Andrea Yates type postpartum where she just kind of checked out. there was just like a lot of turbulence, turbulent stuff and turmoil going on during that time. My mom ended up having to sell the kitchen table to buy groceries, and we were just so poor. And my dad was just, living that fisherman life. It's like you go out and you make so much money, and you just are so happy to be alive when you get home that you just kind of just party it up. And so we didn't see much of him, and so we moved to Kenai. And when my dad would come back to town, it was like. Which I can relate to a lot of the families nowadays whose parents work on the slope or whatever. It's like, dad or mom comes home and it's like they don't really feel part of, they're trying to reel everybody back in and make things go their way. And so there's just a lot of like disagreement and it was, one of my earliest memories as a kid is adults just being like, what do you want? Like, go outside, do something. Because I was just a total spaz, and I'd be like, no, I'm just trying to tell you something. And they'd just be like, you're so crazy. Like, get out of here. And so I would just be like, I always felt like super misunderstood. And I would just be trying to like communicate. And so yeah, that got diagnosed later, thank God. But yeah, I just kind of was just all over the place. I just was super energetic and
you were diagnosed like ADHD or like, okay.
Yeah, that wasn't until I was 34 years old.
Yeah.
And so I spent my whole life just pretty much, it was explained to me like that you pretty much stay in fight or flight. That's right. Everything felt so intense. Everything felt like, out of control. And, so that was actually just a huge eye-opener for me. And I wish so bad that I could have got, help with that earlier, simply because just, growing up, I couldn't concentrate in school. And I just thought there was something wrong with me. You know what I mean? Of course, so did my family. Like, you just don't think right. You're not applying yourself. And I'd be like, so, like just so desperate. And so I just kind of made my social life be my focus because that doesn't take too much focus. You know what I mean?
You could probably thrive in that a little bit. You're probably energetic and exciting and, I don't know, like kind of a life of the party at times.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, no doubt.
It's like you could thrive in that.
Well, what's funny, though, about people that are very energetic, either people like you.
Or they hate you.
They can't stand your ass.
Right. I mean, you're a lot to handle at times, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
Like I said before, it was like, normally we get a script like for some of this maybe, but I don't think we'll need one. And to some extent, like that's like really nice. I mean, you're very high energy, and that's really fun to be around, I think.
Well, when I finally did get diagnosed,
I know he thinks so.
When I finally did get diagnosed, somebody explained to me, they're like and I'd be like, like people just are annoyed by me or they think I'm weird and and it was explained to me like, do you ever look at someone and be like, wow, I wish I had their low energy? And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, you know what I mean? So it's got to be like someone that maybe just can't relate to you because they are a lot lower energy or they just don't understand it because but a lot of people are extremely motivated.
Yeah. On the other hand, and I don't know, but are there ever times that you're like, man, I wish I could chill out a little bit? I mean, there's kind of a flip side of the coin, right? I mean, it's hard.
Well, here's the thing is sometimes people are like, wow, would you calm down? And the funny thing is like inside I feel completely exhausted.
Sure.
Yeah.
And yet I'm like an enigma. Like I just still come off completely like spazzed out. And yet inside I'm like so exhausted and so drained. So, just having the awareness that that's what's going on with me, I've been able to, just kind of like identify like when I'm maybe needing to just like chill or just be quiet or like, hey, sit on your hands, you know what I mean? Like you need to focus a little bit here. And, but it's been really helpful. But through recovery, I actually found, before I got diagnosed, I got in a lot of trouble in 2009, and that was actually the last time that I got in a lot of trouble. But I got arrested, and when I went to Highland Mountain, I wasn't there 24 hours, and I already signed up to go to the RSAT program, which is the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment while you're at Highland, which they have now discontinued, which I'm extremely disappointed about. But so I went there, and
Excuse me, is Highland a correctional
yes,
facility? Okay.
Highland Mountain is the women's facility in Alaska.
Okay.
It's actually in Eagle River.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that was actually the first time that I had actually wanted to, completely just clean up. I mean, I had wanted to so many times. I just didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. And so when I got out, I had to go to part of my thing was I had to go to a 6-hour computer class, and I had to go to some outpatient treatment. And the only way to sit through that computer class was I would go to the gym. I would go to the gym, and I would exert myself like as hard as I could, because if not, I just couldn't sit through the class. And so
it's weird. Computer, I don't get that. They say
it was just a basic business computer systems like Word, Excel, so I could get a good job.
Right.
Word,
yeah,
Word, yes, Word and
That's cool.
Excel.
yeah, that's cool.
So and so through my recovery, I actually and being clean, I actually even though I started going to the gym just to kind of like for the mental clarity, it actually evolved, and I began to compete, and so that actually evolved into something else. So even before I was diagnosed, I was aware that I needed to do something to bring my focus into and so that actually turned out to be kind of cool.
Cool.
nice.
So you're living in Kenai. When did you start to? When did you kind of turn to substances like to cope? Or how did that kind of happen? How did that start?
Well, in my family and just where I grew up, it was like if you were grown up or you were mature or whatever, you partied.
Now probably meant what, like 15?
Well, yeah, that
You're
just like
15
came with the
years
territory,
old.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I thought if I'm
I
grown,
get
then
that.
party or.
Yeah.
So by 15, I think I had tried pretty much everything I'd ever been offered, but it was soon after my 16th birthday.
And you're living in Kenai?
No, I was actually living in Colorado at the time.
Okay.
And that was when I tried methamphetamine for the first time. And being, ADHD, it just pretty much, I just knew right away that that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally became my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
It was my go-to for everything. But all in all, in 1988, my brother committed suicide, and that really caused a lot of trauma in my family. And then my sister being, so needed that my mom was just kind of emotionally unavailable. So I don't know, methamphetamine just gave me this feeling like nobody could hurt me. Mm-hmm. And so it made me feel really normal.
Yeah.
I could do things. It kind of like opened up another side of my brain. I started to do artwork. I started writing. And so I thought it was positive.
Yeah.
And I actually, when I was 16, I tried it. I really liked it, but I didn't actually do it again until I was 18. I had my first child when I was 17.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until after that I started doing it again, and it was just, I was off and running. And I literally pretty much did it every day that I possibly could. I mean, I suffered a lot of consequences from it. I spent time incarcerated in Texas.
For like theft or
Oh,
for
no.
distribution or
No, it was always just possession. I was one of those types of people, like I didn't steal or I didn't do anything to
Sure.
draw attention to my use, because if I did that, then I'd have to stop using.
Yeah.
So I would do anything to like prolong my use and hide it. My
Yeah.
number one job in life was to hide my drug use.
Sure.
And it was hard
Yeah,
work.
that sounds
Right.
taxing. You know what I mean? That sounds
It
like a lot of
was-
stress.
Yes, it was draining. And so I've never been like some hope to die junkie. Not that that couldn't have come, but I always had like this seed of hope that I could do something better or that I could change, but it was just like I was just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And there were periods of time that I could quit, but it was more for like manipulation, like to hide it. So when my parents like would come for vacation, and then I'd stop, and then I'd be like all normal, and then they'd leave, and I'd be like, woo. And so it was never actually to completely clean up. It was just, to get away with it, I guess, some more. So I could quit for periods of time, but in that, like, I didn't really know how to live, because that's just what I had always done, especially when, trauma would happen. I have lost so many people in my family to this disease, and I mean, it's loss is a huge excuse, of course.
Right.
I'm hurting, and this is how I stop hurting.
Yeah. And we actually, through these recovery stories, we've been hearing similarities in the fact that, not in the exact circumstance, but in the fact that a lot of the people we've interviewed have used mainly substances just to cover up some initial pain. You know what I mean? And not fully ever get that closure of actually working through whatever the root of that problem was, but instead just continuously using these substances just to numb it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of on base? Or?
Yeah. In 2012, I had a pretty significant length of clean time. I was clean for 2.5 years, and pretty much just on my own and through the program of NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and my little sister, she was 27, and it was the last time I pulled her out of a dope house, and she ended up having to have her leg amputated, and that was just a really humbling experience to go through with someone, she had ended up getting, I think, osteomyelitis, which is infection of the bone through the blood, I think, or something like that. Yeah. And so, she pretty much struggled her whole life. But, I went from one extreme where I'm just like, you need to clean up and you're never going to get it, and da-da-da, to right there using with her, because I really didn't know how to love her where she was at without completely just being right there with her. And so I ended up relapsing around that time that she got her leg amputated. And then in 2012, or in October, actually the same age, she was the same age as Janis Joplin, and she died on the exact same day. On October 4th, she lost her life to this disease. And that just kind of sent me into a complete spiral. I was maintaining. I've always been kind of a functional user. I still have my job, and I was still going to work and stuff like that. But I was literally just dying inside. I was hurting so bad. Mm-hmm. And thank God I had, earned the trust of, my old probation officer, and she helped me. That was the first time I'd actually ever told someone, like, out loud, like, to their face, like, hey, I can't stop using. And it literally just kind of was like broke the floodgate open, like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Now we know where to start, Mm-hmm. And so she introduced me to Serenity House, which is here in Kenai, and going there just changed my life. They, when I got there, I'll never forget, my counselor said, she goes, you look like a bull. And I said, well, not me, ma'am. Of course not. And she said, well, you're not a bull. Not at all. I said, no, absolutely not. She goes, why don't you pick up that phone and tell your PO that you were loaded when you got here? Cricket. Yeah. But you know what? It was at that time that I would have done anything they told me to do, and that's exactly what I did. I picked up the phone and I did that, and thank God she didn't pick up. I left her a message, but it was a little easier. I was like, don't pick up.
Yeah.
But anyways, so it was funny. They made me do funny things, like go out and hug trees and like primal scream, and like it was there that I actually got the opportunity to grieve my sister. Mm-hmm. Which was huge because I needed a safe place to do that. Yeah. And so when I got out, I started actually visiting Highland Mountain Correctional Facility. I actually started to go and interview women that my PO thought might be ready for treatment. I'd interview them and ask them questions that I know that I would have needed to be asked, and I'd be like, yes, she's ready. And there's actually been some success stories. Mm-hmm. One girl did like a story on KTUU. I think that's what channel is, and she
Yeah.
did like a story
Yeah.
about heroin and about the crime and stuff like that that's happening in Anchorage. You know what I mean? So it's like, I love the fact that, you know, just helping other people that, you know, are stuck just like I was. So I started going back to Serenity House and actually telling my story there. And
Did you do inpatient there?
I did.
In Serenity? For 30 days?
yes,
Okay.
I was there for 40 because on the 30th day they're like, we're going to go ahead and start you on some ADHD medicine.
Oh, wow.
And so we're going to see how that works out for you.
Wow. But
And,
that had to have been hard because a lot of
Yeah.
that's kind of like, isn't like Adderall like an amphetamine salt and like
It was actually I actually got started on Intuitive, which is a non-stimulant. It's
okay.
actually
Interesting.
That's because
yeah.
right when you said that,
Interesting.
I was like, right when you said that you had ADHD, I thought kind of like, well, because I didn't know your drug of choice before you brought it up, but I was like, man, if her drug of choice was a stimulant, that's got to be a tough thing to kind of try to medicate, because I know a lot of ADHD medications are stimulants.
You know,
But
and I
didn't
think
know
that's
that they
I think
were-
that's like a huge kind of barrier sometimes, because it's like there's so many people with dual diagnosis. So
Sure.
it's like you've had ADHD since you were a kid. You self-medicated with methamphetamine, and that
Right.
was your drug of choice. So where do we, you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah,
where
that's would be
which
tough.
part where do we start with
Yeah.
the substance abuse or with your co-occurring disorder? You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
so that can be really hard. But you know, there are like non-stimulant options.
Cool.
But
Yeah,
I didn't
that.
feel
I thought that you were
anything.
just
I just
inclined.
yeah, I still felt like so energetic, and just like myself, I never felt like weird or groggy or, you know, strange.
Yeah, interesting.
But it was when I went to the Summer Solstice Festival here while I was still in house, and somebody goes, "Dude, check out SJ," and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Did you start taking medicine?" And I was like, yeah. And I was like, why do you say that? And they're like, dude, you're so chill. And I'm like, I'm fine. Like, what do you mean? They're like, Sarah, when we met, you were sitting on top of a refrigerator with a hula hoop. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. So, you know, that definitely changed my life too. I was able to like engage in conversations. I was able to stop finishing people's sentences because my mind would just be going so fast that I'd be talking to someone and I'd totally like go left and say something, and they'd look at me like, why aren't you paying attention? And I'd come right back to the conversation, and then they'd tilt their head again like, how is she doing that? And it's just because this I learned that when you have ADHD, the part of your brain that controls the speed of your thoughts just doesn't work. So it's hard for you to even decide how you feel about those thoughts because you can't even slow them down, you know, enough to even think about it.
Yeah.
So that really changed my life. And I was just able to, it really made me wish that I could have got like some sort of help earlier in life, because
Yeah.
I just think that I could have done a lot more stuff, but it happened just the way it was supposed to, and so I'm still grateful. Relationships is just a huge thing for me, as far as like triggers go. You know, and I've been struggling for the last few years with certain relationships, and so recently, you know, I just kind of fell back on old behaviors, and you know, sometimes when you stop working your program, and you know, that lasts for a little while. I'm just the type of person that I need consistency.
You gotta stay plugged in.
Yeah.
I do,
sure.
and I need to. What was happening is I wasn't nurturing myself. I was still going to treatment centers and speaking, and I'm talking like standing ovation, like everybody clapping, and like I'm like dying inside because I would be drinking a little bit, or I would be, you know, dibble dabbling in you know, my old best friend, hanging out with her.
Yeah.
And then I got really mad at myself when I came back in the rooms this time. I'm like, you know, you're just such a fake, and I really had to forgive myself, because just because I was falling back, to me, like, didn't mean that I wasn't still passionate about recovery. You know what I mean? Like, I've always had this passion for it. I've seen it change lives. I've seen people climb out of the deepest holes, and their lives just completely turn around simply from choosing to not pick up and to not use drugs. And so
You do very much seem like an all or nothing kind of girl.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm extreme,
so it
baby.
seems, yeah, I mean, you do. And it seems like if you're not like super plugged in to something really hardcore, like you're gonna maybe fall back to, I mean, and get plugged into something else really hardcore. It doesn't seem like you're the type of person that's gonna do something halfway for very long, at least.
No.
You know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's like people are like, oh, well, I think I can, drink. And I'm like, yeah, you'll be able to for a little while.
Yeah.
For a little while. But then
Yeah.
you're going to want more because that's just what we do. And
Right.
I don't know, man, just getting clean just really helped me see, like, you get to see things, like, almost like with brand new eyes. You get to see, like, those friends really weren't your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That life really wasn't what you wanted. But in really, so in this, I went to Serenity House in February. I ended up getting a DUI, and
Of this year. Yeah.
and I really, I was planning on asking for help. I really was.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? But sometimes I'm just one of those
Just a
people that
little
needs.
too late. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
and well, I felt like it came, whether I wanted it or not. The help was going to come. You know what I mean? Because that's just how it happens for me.
Gonna learn today.
And yeah, and so I went back to Serenity House because I knew exactly where to go, and that was the most wonderful thing to me. Is I went there, and I was like, I need help, and they just said, "Oh, SJ, come on in, man, we got you," and that was actually quite wonderful. I didn't have to, like find anywhere. I mean, I knew where to go, and that was just really cool for me. And so by going back in there, I actually learned, man, that I've been carrying around like some hurt and sorrow that I didn't even know was there. I had been like, like I'm just one of those people like, just be tough. Just be tough. You got this. It's fine. Like you can fix it, or don't let that bother you, or just hate that person. That way you don't have to tell them that they hurt you. If you just be mad at them, then it'll be fine. And I was just stuffing all these horrible feelings, and so it was kind of cool to go back to Serenity House and kind of figure out what I was missing. And I got a permission slip, and the permission slip was to just feel whatever I needed to. And that was just like, I don't know, it sounds so simple, but it really changed things for me because I'm really good at wearing masks. I'm really good at putting, glitter on a turd and making it just look pretty. And, it's like when I went into detox, they were like, you still have weight on you. Your eyes aren't all sunk in. Like, what's going on? And that's really just because I would do anything to, like, cover it up. And so just going in there this time was really, really eye-opening for me. And I got to open up and look at some things in my life that had been unacceptable. And when you learn, like, that it's not so much like what other people are doing to you, it's what you're going to do with that. You know what I mean? Because, maybe it's hurtful stuff that's being done to you, but you have a choice to, like, deal with it in a different way. And so that was really cool. And I don't know. Last time I was in Serenity House in 2013 when I got out, I actually, Serenity House was trying to get the funding for their transitional living.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like super proud of that because I actually was one of the people that wrote letters and helped them get that funding. So it's like I live there now. And so I'm just really proud of like what it's become and the people who have made it possible is I don't know. I love them all. And so, I don't know, today things I'm doing differently is before I used to, I never got a sponsor, or, you know what I mean? I'm like, I got this.
And we keep hearing that, that's a really, at least having some relationship like that functions a lot like that.
You know what I think it
important.
is just like the word.
Yeah.
So I just say friend.
Sure.
Because
Right.
if I say friend, like I'm going to call my friend, it sounds a lot easier. The phone doesn't feel so heavy.
Right.
People are like, I gotta call my sponsor, and I'm like, just say friend. Like I gotta call my friend.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's that sponsor sounds so authoritative or
Yeah,
like
I was
something.
talking. I know it's funny you bring that up. I was talking to somebody the other day about like kind of how that functions, and I said, we don't even need to use that word. You can, but as far as I understand, like the sponsor is somebody that like you can be open with, that is like supposed to be like one of the most trustworthy people in your life, right? and that you can be like open and honest, and they're also kind of want to hold you accountable to some extent, right? And so like however that whatever relationship type is going to function like that, you know, you don't have to necessarily call it a sponsor, it just needs to function kind of in that way, right?
Right. Well, it's like it's almost like you can't be too close.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't be besties.
Yeah.
But you can't be you know, you've got to have some sort of like something relatable with them.
Right.
Like right now my sponsor, she's rad. She runs triathlons. She's really athletic like me, and so I don't know, she's really driven and stuff like that. But, you know, I've never actually worked a full set of steps. And so that's something different I'm doing. And they always say, like, you know, you're going to think like that, you're going to tell your sponsor all this stuff, and they're going to be like, you know, you're going to be afraid to tell them. But, you know, most of the time they're like, oh, I did that too, or whatever. And, that didn't happen for me. She was like, that's the saddest story I've ever heard. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're like, come on, man.
So you know, the fourth step is taking a moral inventory of yourself and admitting to yourself, God, and another human being exactly the exact nature of your wrongs and like what you did and exactly the reason you did it or whatever. And so actually, after I did my fourth step, I literally got physically sick. Like it was like.
I couldn't even imagine doing that.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I only made it to the sink. I mean, I just, I got really, really sick. And I truly believe, you know, since we're mind, body, and spirit, that, I mean, that was just, it was physiological. It was all of it just coming out. So it felt really good though to like get that stuff out, because I don't like to admit that people hurt me, or you know what I mean, that I was hurt by certain things, because I'm like, I'm tough, man. Like you can't.
It's not okay to be vulnerable.
You can't touch this. You know what I mean?
There's this like super famous like social worker, researcher, TED talker. Her name's Brene Brown. She's like, so I call her social work.
I think I've heard her.
Yeah, they have like stuff like a lot of her stuff is at Serenity. They'll like watch TED Talks that she gives. So you probably have seen her stuff. I call her social work Jesus, because her doctorate is in social work, but she does a lot of research like around like emotion and kind of like the human being in its like essence and what you need. And part of it, my friend had been reading one of her books, and my friend made a post about something she said, and it was kind of a longer one. So I read the whole thing, but I can't tell you the whole part of it. But one of the lines was like essentially, as much as you try to protect yourself by not owning your story or by owning your feelings, like they own you. So it's like a totally backwards kind of inverted process. Like as much as you try to push these things away, as much as you try to not own these things, they own you. And that's kind of what seems like what you had just said. Like, you know, as much as I tried to make it so that this person didn't hurt me, like it was killing me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the coolest things that I found in recovery recently is like how emotionally responsible I am. Like right now, like I can be at work and I can be like, oh my gosh, I really miss my kids. And I can be like, okay, it's okay that I'm feeling that way. You know what I mean? Like I have every right to feel that way, but right now, like I still need to work. I used to be on such an emotional roller coaster. Like it was however I was feeling, and you know what I mean? Like I couldn't take care of anything else. You know what I mean?
Exhausting, dude.
Yeah, and feelings made me their.
Yeah, dude.
Literally.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel you. Yeah.
I love that. It's like a little meme, and it's the Grinch, and he's like, "Oh, I'm feeling," it's like, ah, and that's how I feel sometimes, you know. As much as the more you like suppress the feelings, the like stronger they become, you know, and
and that's hard, man. I mean, I can totally relate to that. I've been diagnosed with ADHD as well. Manic depressive, you know, so it's all of that. It's one of those things where you think about it and it's running through the back of your mind the whole time, but it's like there's two sides of your brain, like the brain that's doing right now because that's what feels awesome, then the other side that knows you're going to regret it later or knows what you're doing, but you're just like pushing it back, and then eventually like after that roller coaster hits the top, it's going straight down, and that roller coaster's extended at the bottom, man. Like you hang out down there a little bit and you have to fully like process everything that just happened, and you're like, why? What am I doing? Like, what's the purpose of doing this? And you got to kind of battle that whole battle, and it's just absolutely exhausting.
Yeah.
Absolutely exhausting. So now it sounds like you're to the point where you hit that bottom and it's not quite as flat, you know, because you're doing things at the top that are okay. Like you're okay with, you know, that you can lay down in bed at night and be like, yeah, like that was okay. So that bottom doesn't last as long because you're okay with it now. Like you made that decision, actually got to make that decision for yourself by fully processing your emotions.
Yeah, well, one of the things about me is that, like, as many walls as I put up and as hard of a shell as I've, you know, carried around, like, I have, like, the most tender heart. And so, like, I've actually, like, just accept that about myself. Like, dude, I'm, like, super tender-hearted. Like, and I think, you know, a lot of times my mom's just like, oh, my gosh, you're so intimidating. And I'm just like, I'm passionate. And, you know, and I just think it comes with, you know, to build up your self-esteem, you need to do esteemable things. And so that's what I'm doing today.
Good one.
Yeah, I'm doing esteemable things that make me feel good inside, and my heart and my mind actually match up and be like, you know, I feel good about what I'm doing. I know that what I'm doing is good, and so it really it just kind of creates his life. And I've noticed too, like, you know, I'm still going through stuff. I still have, you know, issues ahead. I still have, you know, hurdles I need to jump over, but it's literally like I'm just relaxed in it. Like I know that I can do this, and no matter what happens, like it's gonna happen just the way it's supposed to. And just having that faith is actually really, really new to me. I think, you know, I used to run on fear so hard that I think that's one of the only things that kept my heart beating sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. I was so afraid of the future. I was so afraid of the past. I was so afraid of, you know, the current situation. I just, you know, and like I said, and I think that's definitely, I actually just learned like 2 years ago why my drug of choice was my drug of choice. And that was simply because I just felt like nothing could hurt me. And that, you know, and now it's like I have that exact same feeling actually in recovery, and that's freaking huge. And that's and it comes from hard work, and it comes from, you know, doing things a little bit different every single day. And a lot of times I don't think about using, but I definitely sometimes want to make the feelings I'm having go away.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like my mind instantly goes to, oh, I got to find something to make this go away. It's, where's this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? You know, somebody told me one time, don't get furious, get curious. And I'm like, that's so goofy, but it's true. It's like, get curious. Like, where is this coming from? Why am I so mad today? Like, what? You know, and just allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling and just go with it, and you know, and just love yourself through the process and trust the process. So, yeah.
So, today, what are some of your like days look like now? Like how you're staying in recovery now. So when you got into it, you got into Serenity. That was awesome. You said that was somewhere that you could keep going back to, or that was always like pretty there for you. And that's off the intake office is off of Binkley Street in Soldotna. They do like generally 30-day inpatient. They have also some outpatient, and is that right?
I think I was in there for 50.
Yeah, you got the record.
No, there was actually a 6-month person.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
No, seriously. And one of the cool things now is, so they used to just kind of throw you into residential, the 30-day residential, but now they actually have a detox where you can kind of go level out a little bit first like before you go into house, and that really makes the house a lot safer. Because I went in there just
loaded,
whooping it up. Well, I'll never forget. I walked in, and somebody was like, "Okay, everyone's going to introduce themselves and tell you their drug of choice." And so I like, you know, my mind's like, brrr. And so I'm like listening to all of them. And so I go upstairs, and the counselor comes up. She was like, "You can skip your first group, or you can come down." I said, "Oh no," I'm in. And so she didn't hear when everyone told me their name and drug of choice. And so when we came back downstairs, she's like, all right, everyone's going to tell you their name and drug of choice. And I said, actually, no, I'm going to tell you their names and drug of choice. And I went around. I was like, this is so-and-so. He used to just say alcohol, but he admitted cocaine now. And then, you know what I mean? And she's like, stop it. Just, you're going too fast. And she's like, is Sarah Jo triggering you guys? And they're like, uh-huh. You know, but now it's like we don't have to do that anymore.
Sure. Wow.
You know, I'll never forget there was another guy that was in there, and he came in, and he was seeing stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so to actually like get rid of all that, you know, like kind of chaos before you actually go in is actually made the house a lot better.
Cool.
And then now, so now they have detox, and then they have residential, and then they actually have a transitional living, which is where I'm living now.
That's awesome.
I've been there since April. And since I've been there, I was going to, I think, 8 groups a week. 7 groups and then a one-on-one with my counselor every week. Since then, I've actually became employed.
Congrats.
Thank you. J-O-B. And so now I work, and, you know, I just catch as many groups as I can. Sometimes I go to 3 meetings a day.
Wow.
Every day after work, I get off work at 8 a.m. and I go to the 8 a.m. meeting in Kenai. I do.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Yeah.
Aaron did,
Yeah, and that's a little different for me, but it's only a couple days a week, which is good.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of cool because it's like, it makes me appreciate all those doctors or whatever, or people that do work like overnight, because I mean, you know, life don't stop just because it's nighttime. You know what I mean? Like there's actually a lot of jobs that are overnight. And so, you know, I've learned there too, like I've gotten a lot of self-esteem to that. I'm like, wow, I'm actually pretty smart. I can crunch these numbers. This is actually pretty cool.
Totally.
And so, yeah, so I became employed, and I also do the Change for the Kenai booth every Wednesday, which is just so fulfilling. You know, educating the public on safe medication practices, storage, safe disposal, helping people understand like why it's dangerous to just throw their medication in the trash, you know, things like that. It's really fun. It's really fun to just share your knowledge, you know what I mean, about the subject. I could be a counselor, probably. I mean, I have the experience, just not the education.
Sure, right. Sure.
I've got all the volunteer hours imaginable.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I really appreciate you guys having me here today.
Yeah,
awesome.
For sure. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
been good. This was Eric, Aaron, and SJ, you and I for the Kenai. Thanks again for listening.
One sec. Thank you so much for being able to tell us your story and everything. I think it's so cool.
SJ all day, baby.
Yeah, SJ all day. Sailor Joe. Sarah Joe all day. Anyway,
I've been called worse.
Sure. If you guys are out there listening, you know, whether you're in recovery, whether you're trying to get into that, you know, and you're in the Central Peninsula area, you know, as you heard today, as SJ said, you know, you can reach out to Serenity House. That was consistently there for her, as we've heard in some of these other recovery stories, as well as some of these community resource episodes. Serenity House continues to come up as just a great resource. And if you are looking like for some, you know, you need to detox, you know, detoxing from a number of drugs, you know, especially, you know, some alcohol or benzos or heroin, but especially alcohol and benzos, like those can be really dangerous to detox from, as well as, you know, a lot of other drugs that are just simply remarkably painful. And some of that, you know, the hardest part at times is to try to get those first few days of detoxing. There is some detox resources here in Soldotna. So please, you can look up Serenity House on the internet and get some of those resources. And as we continue to hear as well, you know, plugging into meetings, plugging in all the way. It seems like that's what I keep hearing. You know, maybe it's like people who have like the temperament of, you know, really going all in, is that you're all in or you're not to some extent, and that can really be a big deal. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. All in, SJ. All day. All in, SJ.
If you're hurting, there's hope. There's hope. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much. As Aaron said, this is You and I for the Kenai, and it's a Change for Kenai publication. Thank you so much.